I am one of those people who I just always forget the Olympics exist or are happening, so this image genuinely was the thing that reminded me of the 2026 Olympics. There's a lot to unpack with heated rivalry, Hudson, Connor, but we are not going to get into that. This was just my inspo to talk about the Olympics and what is the environmental impact of the Olympics. My name is Josie and I'm a graphic designer, and in 2026 I am doing 26 design projects related to sustainability, and we're going to find out what the truth is about the Olympic Games, and it turns out it's not good. The greenwashing has been washed, okay? Like, let's take a look, guys. But first I just wanted to say a little bit about torchbearers. I did a lot of reading, guys. I was left, right, up, down on the internet, dark web, light web, I was looking everywhere. I did a lot of reading about the Olympics, and just a little bit about the torchbearers themselves is that there's actually 10,001 torchbearers for the 2026 Olympics. And the bar to be a torchbearer is like pretty low, like no offense to any torchbearers out there, but basically you apply, I think a lot of times it's like people in the country will apply to be torchbearers for their country, and then you just need to not be in political or religious office, not have any like criminal convictions or like doping allegations and stuff if you're an athlete, and then you need to be over 14. But in December, the torch traveled from Olympia to Italy, and then through the start of the year, it traveled through all of Italy, like obviously being passed on and stuff, in time for the opening ceremony that for me is like coming up still. Okay, so enough about the torch, now we're gonna get into the actual Olympics, but I was looking into the Milan Cortina Olympics, this one, but just a light touch of research, guys. It is like every year, controversy, issues. Even like I was looking at the Vancouver 2010, literally just Googled Vancouver 2010 to look at the Google image and see what it looked like back then. And all the headlines are like, this problem in Vancouver. And I'm like, oh my God, at the time I was a kid, I was thinking this is like so good, like everyone's happy in Vancouver. But the Olympics have like been problematic basically every single year, even just like from my personal memory of like Rio, for example, and like building all the stadiums, and then they kind of, you know, went to disarray, and like all the environmental impact just all around. And this is a very multifaceted topic, but what you'll see is I mostly go into like the emissions data, but the waste and the construction and all of this, you could go on and on and on. And I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not anti-Olympics. I'm not, some people are very anti-Olympics, especially when the Olympics are coming to your city or your country. People are very anti-Olympics. But I'm not really, like I like global events. However, I'm like, is the cost really worth it considering what we're gonna get into and all the impact of it? So I think it would take some like really significant reform to be a sustainable event. But the 2026 Winter Olympics are happening in Milan and Cortina in Italy, and this is actually the first dual city hosting Olympics, which is interesting. And Cortina hosted the 1956 Olympics as well. So one of their big goals was to use a lot of existing infrastructure. So 85% of the venues are existing, and this is one of the highest reuse rates in all of the Olympics history. But that being said, 290,000 tons of CO2 was still emitted to build the infrastructure for this games. So that's just giving you like a snapshot of that situation. And also controversially, in Cortina, which is a mountain town, they had to cut down some old growth forests to build the bobsledding track. And that's just the thing about the Winter Olympics, is you need to have it in a lot of these mountain regions because you need the winter climate, obviously, and this is where a lot of that, you know, skiing infrastructure is. But to accommodate the amount of people that are coming in, you need to do some demolition to the natural world, and these are, you know, in some countries very protected sites, like in Canada, for example. And the thing about the Olympics is when you look into the sustainability claims, it's very much like infographics and vibes. Like the Olympics homepage is just like, we're kind of gonna do this, guys. And to me, it's very like Banff coded. Like if anyone's ever been to Banff, they have like electric buses, and the modern buildings are all like wood and like, you know, kind of vibey, but the tourism industry in the mountains is actually so destructive. I used to work in the mountains, so yeah, it's just very greenwashing vibes, and it's very Banff coded. But I'll tell you some of the things that they're doing for the sustainability push for 2026. So like I said, they're reusing venues. They're also using renewable energy to power most of the stadiums, which Italy uses a lot of renewable energy. They are doing chemical-free snowmaking. I gotta start reading about snowmaking because apparently that's problematic as well. This next one is an interesting one, so I'm just gonna read this to you. The aim is to recycle 70% of urban waste, recover food leftovers across venues, and reuse around 24,000 items from Paris. From the 2024 Olympics. But I'm like, what items? But what items? Like what are we talking about here? Just to mention Paris quickly, they had a big push to be like the Green Olympics in Paris 2024. And their carbon emission goal was 1.6 million tons, which is a lot, but it's actually half of the emissions from Rio or London. And the Paris emissions would be the equivalent of a carbon budget for the city of 1 million people for 1 year. But the Winter Olympics is a smaller event, so the estimated carbon emissions from the 2026 Olympics is going to be 930,000 tons of CO2. The biggest contributor of emissions is transportation and travel, business travel, people coming in and having spectators. So the most green Olympics would be one with no visitors. Beijing in 2022, they had a significantly lower carbon footprint because they had really strict COVID restrictions. So the greenest Olympics is one where nobody is there. Okay, so I hope this was kind of interesting because I thought this was very interesting. I'm like, wow, Olympics, problematic? Who would have thought? I mean, literally everybody, but still. So the concept that I wanted to do for this design project was to have a kind of like Breathing Earth live stream. Does anybody remember this website? I tried to look it up, but it was taken down because Flash ended. But Breathing Earth used to be this website that showed you like how many people have been born since you logged on the website, like how much carbon has been emitted and like sucked up by trees, like all of this different stuff. So it was a real-time like Earth tracking engine. It was really interesting. But I wanted to do kind of this version for the Olympics and show how much CO2 is emitted per hour during the Milan Olympics. And I wanted to use the Olympic torch as like a storytelling device. So when the torch is burning really bright, that's equivalent to times when a lot of CO2 is being emitted. And when the torch is burning low, it's like quieter times of day. So the evening when people are traveling less and there's not events going on. So it just kind of tells the story of how impactful it is at any given hour. So mine is obviously conceptual, so I did a lot of estimation, but this would be a real like feat of data collection if this actually happened. So you would have to track like how many people are flying into the airports in Milan, traveling to Cortina, what the roads are like, how much energy is being emitted for all of the stadiums and all of the accommodation in the Olympic villages and stuff like that. But just to give you a bit of information on my math, I subtracted the infrastructure emissions because that's already been done and I wanted this to be a live stream of the Olympic time period. So what I came to in my math was that there would be 33,700 tons of CO2 emitted per day approximately. And then that works out to about 1,400 tons per hour. And this is for 19 days of competition because they actually start competing a little bit before the opening ceremony. They start competing on the 4th and then the opening ceremony is on the 6th. And then one thing that you'll see in my actual design is I tried to like weigh it out a bit. So I made the busy hour more and the quiet hour less, obviously, but kind of still like within that frame of reference. Okay, we're gonna actually get into my design process now, but I wanted to read a little bit about the Olympic torch design for 2026. They do different designs every year. I just went into Blender and I got a reference image and I started modeling it. It's a really simple shape, but I just thought this was a very interesting piece of text. So, dematerializing the torch while focusing on the flame. You can already tell a product designer fucking wrote that. Dematerializing the torch while focusing on the flame. Delivering a contemporary interpretation of the Olympic and Paralympic flame as the true soul of the games. We aim to enhance its presence by reducing the visual and physical impact of the torch itself. This is achieved by introducing a larger flame while minimizing the formal, visual, and material prominence of the torch body. But yeah, like I said, I just modeled it. It was really simple. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like Italian cars. I guess that's what they were going for. But I wanted this to be obviously mobile and just showing like the top of the torch. So I actually didn't end up using like most of the torch body. And unfortunately, I couldn't do like the logo part of the torch just because yeah, I was literally just showing the top of it. And then I added a subdivision modifier and a solidify modifier to give it a little bit of thickness. And then I made the flame. Guys, I followed a YouTube tutorial like beat by beat for this, so I'm just gonna link that down below. But I'm just making the flame here, and you can see I'm like playing around with the settings and the size because I'm gonna have the low flame and then the high flame. And then it was after I made the flame that I did the texture for the actual torch, which was really, really simple. I just like added some noise and had it pretty shiny, because that actual torch is very, very shiny, but I didn't want it to be perfect. And then I just added a simple background. So I just did this gradient and I put it as a plane for the background, just so I could still have that HDRI to show like the accurate reflections. And I just played around with what color I wanted for the background. And in a lot of these, like, I guess mock-up 3D models of the flames, they have this sort of blue to pink or blue to purple background color. I don't really like that very much. I just wanted it to be quite, you know, dark, kind of muted and quite simple. So I went back and forth between After Effects and Figma, which you'll see. But basically the most important thing was creating a shape for the mobile phone screen, and then that would be my mask. So everything would go inside of that, the design that I made, and also the text that would be moving across the screen as well. So I just did a rounded rectangle and I made that the mask for different things. But originally I was gonna actually design everything in After Effects, but it was not working. It was not going well. And one of the things about, you know, doing this motion graphics here and even working on Figma is that the scale is completely distorted from what you're looking at to a full screen, right? So everything ends up being really big when I make it on After Effects or in these different programs. And then you actually look at it and it's like, oh my God, this is huge. Like, it's ridiculous. And then I just wanted to have like a little background moment. So this is a screenshot from a live stream of a ski hill in Cortina. So this is an actual real ski hill from there. And I just thought I would do this day to night thing and keep it really simple. And I also turned the temperature way down on that second image because it was kind of yellowish. So yeah, like I said, I originally wanted to design this in After Effects, but then I went into Figma to do it. And I just played around with every trick in the book for the whole making a mobile website. And yeah, I was just playing around with the placement, having the logo in there. Don't come for me, Olympic Committee, okay? I don't know if that's like bad to do. This is a non-commercial project. And then yeah, just putting my facts here, and then I put an equivalent as well. And honestly, this was like tricky for me. You know, I'm not really a mobile person. I'm not really a UI person, to be fair. So I don't know, I was just kind of doing what I could. And then eventually I got interested in like the Figma glass effect. Are we living in like 2005? Like, why are they doing the Figma glass? I don't know, but I liked the Figma glass. I thought, let me give that a try. And you'll see in the end, I did something a little bit different, but kind of along the same vein, basically. And then I just like hid the background because I was just using that as a reference, and I exported the PNGs of that. So that was kind of my, you know, frame here, right? And that's the graphic going on top of it. Again, putting that inside of the mask that I already created. And I wanted this to be very minimal. You know, I saw a reference online of like a minimal UI mock-up, and I think we're in the race to minimalism here with these phone mock-ups. Like, we're getting further and further from the shape of a phone, because it's like, we all know the shape of a phone, so it's like, how simple can we make the phone mock-up? I've seen ones where it's literally just the Wi-Fi, the power, and the time. And like, that's the mock-up. I respect it. And then I added the text that would be the kind of scrolling across the screen events, which I wanted to have like kind of live showing the events. And then obviously it switches when it goes to the next time of day. So I'll show you guys the final outcome now, but the Olympics are very multifaceted. Same with any global event, really, because I'm just looking at emissions. I'm not looking at waste. I'm not looking at the human impact, you know, gentrification, stuff like that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.